Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spurs Up Show, the best Gamecocks podcast on the internet. Today is Tuesday, November the 24th, 2020. On today's show, former Gamecocks football player Alex McGrath joins me as he does each and every single Tuesday. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. We break down South Carolina's 17-10 loss to Missouri Tigers, but more importantly, the Luke Doty era officially begins at South Carolina. Also, takeaways from that game. We'll talk on the coaching search as well, the shitstorm that hit social media late last week with Javon Kinlaw, and really his thoughts as the Gamecocks fan base and former players and everyone tries to come together to sing Kumbaya. Also, finally, we will take a look at this weekend's game against the Georgia Bulldogs, his memories, thoughts from playing against Georgia, all that and more on a packed edition of the Spurs Up Show, guys. And it's all brought to you by our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. Guys, Upstate Movers Group, superior moving service. They bring care and attention other companies can't offer because they're just too busy maintaining trucks and profiting off of them instead of focusing on service. Guys, service is what separates Upstate Movers Group from the competition. By the way, guys, they're not a trucking company. They are a moving services company. They're employee-owned co-op. Their movers are paid twice the industry average, so everyone on the crew is just invested in the success of the project as you are. They have dedicated professional crew members, and they offer black glove service, which means they offer end-to-end packing services, custom creating and packaging for special items, and cleaning services as well. Guys, they're founded by Greenville natives and University of South Carolina alumni, guys, so a Gamecock-owned small business, and they offer 20 years of project management moving experience and can offer logistics and solutions that traditional moving companies, guys, simply do not have the skills for. Guys, whether you're in the upstate, the state of South Carolina, if you have any moving needs, be sure to check out my friends at upstatemoversgroup.com. That is upstatemoversgroup.com. You can also follow them on Upstate Movers Group on social media. Guys, we all know I hate moving, the moving process. You lose stuff, you break stuff, you flat out just don't want to do it. Let the guys over at Upstate Movers Group take care of it for you. And of course, guys, like I said, a Gamecock-owned small business. Gamecocks helping Gamecocks here on the Spurs Up Show. You know we're all about it. So again, if you're in the state of South Carolina, especially in the upstate, you have any moving needs, be sure to contact my friends over at Upstate Movers Group. You can find them on social media at Upstate Movers Group. And of course, their website, upstatemoversgroup.com. That is upstatemoversgroup.com. The show is also brought to you by our friends over at Southern Oaks Remodeling. Guys, Southern Oaks Remodeling, locally and family owned, over 15 years of experience. They specialize in roofing, windows, doors, siding, and additions, and they're serving the greater Columbia area. Guys, it's the perfect time to do so, right? For that remodeling project you've been putting off, whatever it is. We're in the holiday season. Why not knock it out now? The people are what make Southern Oaks Remodeling. That's what makes the difference with these guys. Love the people. They're also a Gamecock-owned small business. You can check them out on social media. They're on Instagram. They're on Facebook. Of course, their website. Or give them a call, 803-899-0284. That's 803-899-0284. Guys, like I said, again, a Gamecock-owned small business. They can do a little bit of anything and everything, roofing, windows, doors, siding, additions. You know they know what they're doing. Over 15 years of experience, guys. And again, people are what make the difference. You don't spend money on a business. You spend money on people, and people are what make the difference with Southern Oaks Remodeling. Again, they're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere else, website, and their phone number. Give them a call, 803-899-0284. That's 803-899-0284. The show is also brought to you by our friends over at Yardware. Guys, Yardware, a veteran-owned and operating company licensed by the University of South Carolina, and they're selling must-have Carolina yard and wall signs. Guys, these signs are made out of 12-gauge laser-cut steel, and they come in both garnet and black. Football season's in full swing. Christmas right around the corner. Guys, if you did not see also, we are doing a giveaway with Yardware signs. We are giving away a free sign. One lucky Gamecock fan is going to get a sign. It's on Instagram and Facebook. Go check it out there. Rules on how to be eligible are there. We're going to pick a winner on Friday at 5 o'clock, guys. Again, these things are awesome. A must-have for any Gamecock fan. The detail, the quality is impeccable. I mean, it just stands out from the rest, guys. You got to have one of these if you're a South Carolina fan. Again, and you can put it anywhere, your yard, your studio, your office, man cave, garage, living room, dining room. This is a great piece to go anywhere in your home or your yard as well. You can order yours today at yardwaresigns.com. They're also on social media at Yardware Signs, but that's yardwaresigns.com. Again, yardwaresigns.com to order your sign today. Finally, the show is brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Guys, MyBookie, between the NFL, college football, all the other sports, there's no shortage of games to watch, and with thousands of lines available on all your favorite sports and events, you can turn your game day into payday with MyBookie. Guys, if you're the type of person that likes to back the big favorites, consider putting a couple in a parlay for a much bigger payout. Not only do parlays make meaningless games exciting, but more importantly, they give you a chance to turn ordinary bets into a real moneymaker. And guys, of course, don't forget the underdogs, right? They have a ton of value. The thing about college football, the NFL, sports in general, the underdogs really never are dogs. Every team truly has a chance to win, and you do as well. Game spreads, championship futures, and player prop bets. It's never too late to get in on the action and start turning your sports knowledge into actual cash in your wallet. Guys, you can sign up today at mybookie.ag, and when you do, use the promo code Gamecocks to claim a deposit match dollar for dollar all the way up to $1,000. Guys, it's a win-win scenario. It's a bonus designed to give you a little help and a head start on your winning season. Guys, again, that's promo code Gamecocks for you to claim your bonus when you make your deposit. Stacked UFC cards, college football, NFL, all the major sports and more. Sign up today to begin your winning season exclusively at MyBookie. Let's get it. Every single Tuesday, former Gamecocks football player Alex McGrath. Alex, we've got a lot to talk about, from the game, social media madness, the coaching search rages on, obviously, as we're talking here on Tuesday. But, Alex, I really appreciate you taking the time, man. How was your weekend? It was a beautiful weekend in the state, obviously, and obviously the game didn't turn out the way we wanted. But, sir, how was your weekend overall?
It was a good weekend. Had a little wedding this weekend, hung out with kids all weekend, did some yard work, just typical dad weekend stuff. Nothing too terribly exciting. I certainly didn't get 50-yard line seats at the game like some of us did. Those are the shakes, man.
It's tough. Honestly, somebody has to do it. Living the Mr. Mom life, though. I admire it, sir.
Yes,
good on you. Good on you.
You got to do it every once in a while.
Well, Alex, I'm going to start this show a little differently because, again, South Carolina loses to Missouri 17-10. And again, I was at the game. But my opening comment to you, Alex, is this. Boy, oh boy, isn't it funny how changing a coach and changing a quarterback can change the entire attitude and outlook of a fan base?
Yeah, that was a different look we had there in the second half. One of inspired hope and confidence, it seemed like. Unlike what we saw on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask you about the play of Luke Doty because I compared it on my show again. You talked about, we talked about a few weeks ago. You talked about Steven Garcia, though, and kind of the energy that injected into the team, when you were there, when Garcia was a young guy and, you kind of felt like he was the next dude. But, of course, you had Chris Smelly, you had Blake Mitchell. But you always felt like when you inserted Steven in the lineup, there was just this new sense of energy. It was infectious to the entire team. And, again, humble brag, as close as I was, you could see body language. You could see how guys react. And that was a different thing for me. I thought it was really, really cool to be that up close and personal and see that. And, no disrespect to Colin Hill, whatever. He's done the most he can do with the abilities he has and what he has to work with on offense. But you could see in that first half, again, 68 yards of offense, Alex, 68 yards of offense. I saw guys on the sideline on defense kind of shrugging their shoulders, rolling their eyes, dejected a little bit. And I totally understood. Listen, for me, watching the game as a fan, it was boring. All week people said, oh, the season's a wash. It felt that way. That's how you felt. Like, man, that's kind of how these two teams are both playing. Sloppy game on both sides. But injecting Luke Doty in the lineup in the second half, I sat up in my chair. I sat on the edge of my seat. I thought you saw this entire football team really come to life. Again, your defense pitches a second half shutout. You don't win the football game, but that was the best your offense looked all game. Again, I feel like it's really simple to talk about the impact Luke Doty had because I think you have to be blind to not see it. But just talk about what you saw from Luke Doty, the type of impact he has. Again, there were at least 3 or 4 plays, Alex, I know you would count as well, that the play was dead. With Colin Hill, it's 110% a sack, and Doty's able to evade a guy, make a guy miss, scramble for 8 yards, scramble for 10 yards, scramble for 15 yards. That is the difference. And I think that's what everybody's been talking about as far as the upside that the true freshman brings to this offense and this team.
100%. And two, I think it adds, I mean, so you have that added element to where he's a threat to run with the ball. So you have to account for that at some point on defense. So that pulls an extra defender out of the secondary that's got to stay with him, or an extra linebacker that's got to stay with him. And, two, on those scramble plays, that's a lot of the times where you get receivers open for big plays. And this may have just been bias on my part watching it, but it just seemed like, we didn't have any drops in the second half, did we?
Not that I can really recall. No, not that stand out. Not that stand out. No.
Well, I say that. I think Adkins dropped one, but now that again, it just adds an extra element that Colin Hill can't bring to the table, and I think that's huge for us, especially if we're going to have to play without Shi Smith next week.
Yeah, which you probably will
because you don't have that dependable number one.
Yeah, he's in concussion protocol, so I'd highly doubt Shi will be available this weekend, or probably maybe even the rest of the season, because that's a guy, he's already accepted his invite to the Senior Bowl. He's trying to get drafted or get signed or whatever, and I'd probably imagine at this point, like, unless he's just 110% recovered, I probably would assume he's going to protect himself, which, again, he's given you all he's got this year. Can you really fault the guy? But and I will say, Alex, being that close to the field, yet again, humble brag, he took a shot. That walking off the field looked like he didn't know where he was. So we'll see what happens. But, the concussion protocol, we'll see if he can come out of it. But I want to ask you this. And, again, I love to and hate to draw these comparisons, because I don't want to put this much on the kid. But I have to ask, how much does Luke Doty remind you of a young Connor Shaw? Like I just feel like they're like the same. The skill set is very, very similar. You can't deny that.
It is. No, it's the exact same kind of skill set where you're a good enough passer to be dangerous, and the scrambling ability and being able to throw on the run like he can just adds an extra element to anything that you're doing on offense. And it just puts the defense in tougher spots where, that's just not going to happen if you've got Colin in there. And for example, if you take Shi Smith out of the game, you're able to blanket our other receivers. He's got to stand there. He's got to dump it to a running back, or he's going to get sacked, or he's got to throw an incompletion. You put somebody like a Doty or Shaw in there, and now all of a sudden pressure comes in, they can roll out, and now you're asking that secondary to cover those receivers for an extra 2, 3, 4 seconds. And that's where you can get those big pops in the passing game when you have a busted play. And we don't have a quarterback on the roster that can do that other than Doty and Dak Joyner.
Yeah, I thought you saw him throw out of a lot of sacks too, like throwing on the run for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's like that danger without, having, 2 go-to receivers is a huge help to the offense. And 2, going forward, assuming he's going to be the starter, that's going to be a big help to Kevin Harris too, because you start running some of these zone read plays, and now they got to count for 2 guys and not just 1. And so it just, like we've talked about since week 1 on what we want to see and revolutions in the play calling, like this adds all those elements to it where you're not going to get stymied nearly as much. And that it worked fine, for the first couple of weeks of the year. And then you kind of hit a roadblock where you weren't able to, feature anybody but Shi. And now, Shi's out of the game. Now you've got to figure out a way, okay, well, how do I scheme this up the best I can? And Luke's going to give us the best opportunity to do that.
For sure. And you talk about, I agree with you. I think no other quarterback. And it'd be interesting to see, because again, we're talking on a Monday. So the Tuesday, this show comes out Tuesday. That presser is going to be happening at 12:30. Alex, if Mike Bobo trots Colin Hill back out there as a starter, this fan base is going to revolt. Am I wrong? I just
no,
which they should, right? I think we all agree no other quarterback or other than number 4 should be taking the snaps. I just hate his first career start might come against the Georgia Bulldogs. Hey, welcome to the SEC, though. Welcome to the SEC. You signed up for it, right?
Sure, but you know who doesn't hate that? is Luke Doty.
Yeah, right.
This is the stuff you dream about when you're playing high school football or you're playing tag football in the backyard with your friends. It's getting to go out there and start a game like this. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to have butterflies because everybody does, but I assure you he is not going to shrink from that moment because it's something he's been dreaming about his whole life. How
much, Alex, I'm going to put you in the shoes of the next head coach for South Carolina, and we all know at this point, from everything we've heard, it's going to be an offensive head coach, right? I expect South Carolina to go to the spread, go to a more up-tempo, a more modern offense. And the ironic thing, Alex, about Saturday night and the way it went down, walking to the stadium, I was telling the people I was with, I really feel like this is setting up for Luke Doty to be the guy going into next season because I fully expect it's going to be that style of offense. I know you'd agree with that. I mean, it's going to fit a guy like Luke Doty so perfectly, and I think the next head coach is going to be competent enough to where he's not going to move a fast quarterback to wide receiver just because he's fast. So I think they're going to look at that. There won't be as much roster mismanagement. But, the way it went down, I'll put you in the shoes of the new head coach or even the new offensive coordinator. How much would you be salivating at the opportunity to work with a guy like Luke Doty? Man, that's just got to be a dream. That's a real selling point, I think, for the next head coach. Like, bro, we've got a guy that's going to fit the exact scheme you're running.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's got to be because it gives you more than anything else. It kind of gives you an idea of what's sitting there. So, when you're having these conversations and trying to think like, how do we want to attack this from a recruiting standpoint? What do we want to do from an offensive setup standpoint? Like, what's sitting there because you've seen the tape on it. And, if you leave them on the sidelines, then it's kind of up in the air on, okay, well, what is this really going to look like? And now you actually have film to go back and review and look at and figure out, yeah, this is what he does well. This is what we need to work on. I can build something to this. Which again, and I know we've talked about this ad nauseum. I just sincerely hope that's what walks in the door is somebody that's like, hey, I'm going to build around
the talent, not try to just instill my system no matter who's on the roster.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's what we will see. I do think that's what we will see. So, Alex, on my show that dropped Monday, obviously everything has happened with coaching changes, opt-outs, and I wasn't letting the pettiness flow through me. But since I'm talking to you, I mean, I figured we might as well let this come out. But no, just the irony of you fire your defensive-minded head coach. Arguably, and I would say your top two defensive backs opt out, and your defense looks the best it's looked in over a month. Explain.
Oh boy.
Do you have? Is there an explanation? Is it just coincidence, or I mean, it's almost hard to fathom, right? Like it's hard to believe that happened.
It is and it isn't. I mean, I texted you semi in jest earlier, just because we've heard for what week are we in? 8 weeks that Colin Hill gives us the best chance to win. Well, we saw on the field Saturday that may not have been the case.
Hey, and even Mike Bobo echoed that, and I think it was the Tuesday presser last week when he said, "Hey, I've been doing this a long time. I've been coaching quarterbacks. I know what I'm doing." He's echoed many times, we're playing the best player. And what do you know? What do you know?
You get 68 yards of offense out of him. And then you're like, you know what, we got to do something different because maybe he's not. And so, half jokingly, I texted you like, well, they've been saying Colin's the best quarterback we have on the team. Like, what if JC and Israel weren't the best two cornerbacks?
I mean, if you joke, but I mean, it's just insane. It's crazy. And I know Mizzou wasn't some offensive juggernaut. They're not Ole Miss, but it's still just wild when you look at it and you're like, South Carolina is doing what they're doing right now without those guys. I mean, it was crazy.
Well, and two, I mean, if you look at it like in the number of pressures and blitz packages we brought, like
I thought T-Rob called a great game.
One of those.
I thought T-Rob called a great game.
We didn't do one of those against LSU. You know what I mean? And it's like, so, it goes back to, and I told you this too, like going through the whole Brian McClendon phase where, you had this like Jekyll and Hyde kind of pop up where you'd be throwing the ball over the field and then all of a sudden we'd sit on it for 2 quarters. The other team would come back I don't know how many times we had to watch that unfold, but it's just like the first game that, Muschamp's not involved in. We're blitzing from all over the place. We're getting quarterback pressures, yada, yada, yada. And then, we get a quarterback change.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like, I've always, my take was always that he was monkeying more in the offense than he would ever come on to.
Right.
But is it possible that was going on the defensive side as well?
I thought T-Rob did a really good job. He turned the guys loose, I thought. And again, it is baffling. It's crazy. It's crazy. And again, I didn't spend my entire show Monday, taking shots saying, oh, look, this happened because of this. This happened because of this. Because you could certainly do that, right? You could certainly do that. But I took the high road. We took the high road. It's fine. But no, it's just crazy. It's crazy. It's truly baffling, and kudos to those guys. I do want to ask you about this, Alex, because I think the frustration for a lot of Gamecock fans, and especially for a lot of Gamecock alumni, and the thing they didn't want to see was I thought you saw, especially of that 3-game stretch, 159 points given up, was a team that when they got down, I'm hesitant to say they quit, but there was certainly a mood change. And there was certainly, when the team got down, it would seem like they just weren't able to come back from that. And I've seen a lot of former Gamecock players speaking on, again, there's no moral victories. You lost to Mizzou at home, and it sucks. But being proud of the fight that this team showed, because that was something I questioned very much so, was the culture, especially with everything that happened on social media and all the messaging that was coming out there. And I really, truly questioned what the culture was like behind closed doors. I questioned whether this team would even show up to play. I questioned whether they would fight, scratch, and claw for the name on the front of the jersey, not on the back. And especially after being down 17-0 going into halftime, you're thinking, oh my God, this thing could just completely get out of hand. Your defense pitches a shutout in the second half. Again, you inject Luke Doty in, and good things happen for you offensively, but you got the ball with a chance to tie the football game. And after the way the game started, especially in the way things have gone this season, again, I know for you probably as a former player, seeing those guys in the midst of all this turmoil go out there and at least, if nothing else, fight for the University of South Carolina. Just talk about that. I'm sure that's something that had to make you, at least if nothing else, make you proud to watch Saturday night.
It did. Just to look, I'm not going to pretend to put myself in their shoes. That's not something, I've never been through a coaching change like that. Somebody that brought me in all of a sudden is gone the next day. And I'm sure, they're 18, 19, 20 years old. That's a big change for, anybody, especially kind of given the fishbowl that you live in that environment. And it's like, you over time, you just learn not to just lash out at everything that comes at you. And, that's unfortunately, I think a lesson that a lot of people have to learn the hard way. It kind of just touching on the Twitter responses and, people firing back. It's just like, at some point you got to be on the fan side. You got to just look at yourself and be like, I'm 40 years old. Why am I tweeting at this 19-year-old on Twitter, like insulting him? And at the same time, you as, an NFL prospect and all this other stuff, you got to just look at it from the standpoint, is me responding to any of this or putting that opinion out forever for everybody to see worth it for me in the long run? And it's not. And so, I know we've talked about, there probably should be a social media ban. I 100% agree with that. I'm not saying like you can't get on it and look at it, but you don't need to be out there responding to everything just because that's going to do nothing but fuel a fire somewhere. And I think that's just a lesson that, everybody's going to have to eventually learn. But the kids that, I thought what Hutchison said after the game was incredibly powerful. Just to, because that he sees it as, look, I made this commitment. I'm going to see it through. I'm a leader on this team, and I need to be here for these guys to shape what comes next. And I think even the conversations that you've had with, Vic Hampton or DJ Swearinger, all those guys, that's the biggest, takeaway from everything that they said, was that there were leaders on that team that were going to help shape what this program should be and what it can be. And I think having guys in the locker room like Hutchison and like everybody that laid it all out on the field Saturday night is a gigantic step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, for
and
sure.
yeah, it makes you proud to watch it because you want that legacy to live on beyond you.
Yeah, you want to be proud of your school. I mean, I speak, obviously I'm speaking for you and I mean all the former players. You want to be proud of your school. And again, Hutchison comments, those comments he made were awesome. I thought they were just truly, it was awesome. It was great to see. You're speaking on social media, so obviously, Alex, I know we talked a little off here. I got to ask you about everything. I mean, the shit hit the fan on Friday. I mean, it really did. I'm getting ready to go live on my getting ready to go live on my daily live stream or whatever. And I start going at 12, click go live, whatever. Ken Law sends this tweet at 12:01 is when that happens. And I was at a loss for words. I had no idea what to say, think about it, whatever. And things have evolved since then. Guys have apologized. Some guys have. Ken Law has not. Two-part question, because I want to put a positive spin on it. I want to ask you, what were your thoughts on what Javon Kinlaw said? But the second thing, because what his statement was, our Gamecock fans are the worst. Give me your interactions with South Carolina fans. What do you remember most? Again, you were a Gamecock football player. What do you remember most about Gamecock football fans? What was your experience like?
So I think the best story I could tell was we had and I think I told the story on the podcast before, but we had a open scrimmage in fall practice of 2006, and we offense scored a touchdown like early in the scrimmage, and so there's probably I could never gauge like how many people are actually there, but let's say there's 2,000 people sitting on the home side just watching us scrimmage. And like right after the touchdown happens, all of a sudden a trumpet starts playing the fight song. And this fan had brought a trumpet into the stadium with him, and he played it every time there was a touchdown. Just played the fight song. And I remember I was standing next to Mo Brown when he did it, and he just looked at me and smiled. He's like, man, we've got the best fans in the entire world. And I think that, like, if you look at, to get 80,000 people into that stadium every single weekend during the fall, to have the kind of record that the university has over the last 130 years, I think is a testament to what kind of fan base we actually have. And look, it's been a very tough 5-year stretch, or really 6-year stretch here, ever since the last 11-2 season, where you've kind of had, it fell off and then it fell off worse. We, the most popular coach that we've ever had, the most successful coach we've ever had, abruptly departs and kind of leaves us in a tough spot. And, we've got this vacancy. We've got, several pretty high caliber candidates lined up to take this job. And then all of a sudden, Will Muschamp's the guy. And I think it would be reasonable to say that most people had a lot of trepidation in that, just given what had happened at Florida. And so you've got that factored in. You have a little bit of success at the front end, and then that falls off a cliff. And it just created this kind of, I don't want to say toxic atmosphere, because people are still showing up. People still love the team, but it creates this divisiveness within it that, you have to remedy somehow. And, you don't want anybody to ever, lose their job or, be cast out as, some untouchable somewhere. But at the same time, like, you've got to turn that around. And, and again, kind of going back to what I said a minute ago, like, being on social media and constantly reading those comments and firing stuff back at people doesn't help that situation at all. And it's really on both sides of that ledger that really need to kind of come to grips with that and understand that the people that are playing this game that you love are kids. And you know what? The kids do and say dumb things. I know I have said all kinds of dumb things when I was their age, and probably still do today. And to just we've got to have some sort of accountability on both sides of that ledger. To okay, it was said It sucks. We didn't like it, but we got to move on. And, if they want to move on and have that opinion forever, I mean, that's sad to me that, you really feel like that. But, the eggs on Twitter don't speak for the entire fan base. And that's what I would say about it.
Yeah, that's well said. Very well said, Alex McGrath. Yeah, I know. It was extremely well said. I'm not sure you maybe saw the video on Twitter as well where the fan base, and I was there, the fans, a lot of them booed when they showed the
Not a good look.
And I said, and I agree with you. And I said on social media too, I'm disappointed that they did that. I understand why they did it because they're pissed. Because, hey, when I saw Kinlaw's tweet, I was pissed. I mean, no, they know what I was pissed. But both sides, I agree, come together, sing Kumbaya. Javon Kinlaw didn't mean what he said. He didn't. If he sits down and he thinks critically, he was tweeting emotionally, and that is the double-edged sword that is social media. And that is, again, there's positives and there's negatives to social media. That's one of the negatives is people get on there, they tweet through their feelings, as they call it, and they say stuff they really probably don't 100% mean. And because, again, it's like, dude, the University of South Carolina gave you a platform to get to where you are now. It wasn't all bad. You can't pretend like it was. But, again, like you said, the eggs, and I've told people, and again, we could go into a whole separate show about this, the culture of Twitter. And I'm somebody that knows firsthand. I've had people tell me to kill myself because my opinion on Gamecock football. I mean, it's absurd. But the maniacs think they're the majority. And like you said, the eggs are not the majority. That's just not the way it is. But if you're not accustomed to that and you see people coming at you, doesn't matter if they have 0 followers or 100,000. Some people, if you're not used to it, you don't know how to react. So, but I agree with you. Both sides. Take a deep breath. Hey, last week was emotional as hell. I mean, every single day was just crazy. Take a deep breath, reevaluate it. I do expect Javon Kinlaw will put out an apology at some point because, I mean, God, I would think the university is going to be in touch with him in some capacity and say, hey, man, this isn't really a good look for us. Like, let's both parties come together again, sing Kumbaya and be done with it. But I agree. I think that was very well said, man. I think you put it very well. So
I mean, even if he doesn't,
even if he thinks that, don't say it out loud, right?
Well, I mean, he did. It's over. It's done.
Right.
If he doesn't like formally apologize, I think it's up to us as fans to say, you know what, it was an emotional time. We'll let it go. You left you bled for this university.
Yeah. I think fans should let it go. I agree with you. I think fans should let it go either way. If he feels that way, it is what it is. Doesn't have to come back, but don't boo it. Don't boo when his picture's on the scoreboard. That's we
much. Don't need to be doing that.
That's much.
Okay. That's akin to blaming FSU for your COVID troubles.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dabo has made an ass clown of himself. That is for sure. Anyways, on a more positive note, the coaching search rages on, Alex. Nothing crazy to update, obviously. I was talking to you over the weekend about, and I said this on the show Monday, and I think basically everybody knows this at this point, but there was a meeting Saturday, 2:00 Zoom meeting with a bunch of former players, lettermen, what have you, with Ray Tanner, getting feedback as far as what they're looking for, and there were different names thrown around. And I can tell you the names that were thrown out to me were Billy Napier, Shane Beamer, Deuce Staley, which kind of surprised me, Chris Rumpf, a guy who has South Carolina ties. Those were the main ones my guy told me they talked about. And he also said that Ray Tanner stressed and emphasized that it's going to be an offensive head football coach. I know we were laughing off air because as we went live, Twitter and social media is going nuts because there's somebody out there that's spreading a rumor that Jeff Monken will get the job, and I can assure you that is not going to happen. And if it does, Williams-Brice might burn to the ground, but
it could.
Not going to happen. But I guess I just wanted to gauge where you are as far as the coaching search. Again, if I had to put good money on it, I say it's either going to be Billy Napier or Shane Beamer. And again, if I had to put more money on it, I don't know. I'm leaning Shane Beamer that I think will probably be the next head football coach. It sounds like, by the way, they want a decision, an announcement made by December the 10th. So if you're looking for a target date, I'm thinking at the week following the final game, the week following the Kentucky game. And that doesn't mean that decision might not be finalized behind closed doors. I think that's just when they will make an official announcement. Because it sounds like from what my guy told me, Ray Tanner has already talked to 6 coaches. It sounds like they said they plan on talking to 4 more coaches this week. So, that process rages on. I just want to get a temperature check with you, how you're feeling right now as we go through this coaching search.
Well, I think it's fair to say Jeff Monken is an offensively minded coach, just not the direction,
not the offense we want to go with. Yeah, exactly.
So I know I've told you, but Coach Beamer was our special teams coach and recruiting coordinator while I was playing. And I'm personally all in the tank for Shane at this point. I think being around him for those 2 years, just everything about him, like he is a tireless recruiter. He is somebody who is going to be really, really good in the living rooms across the Southeast. Mm. And two, I think he's just the kind of guy that you would want leading a program. I think he would be an outstanding spokesman for the university going forward. And I think from a positive standpoint, I know that at least on the message boards that I've seen, there's been a lot of criticism that he's never been a coordinator anywhere. He's only coached like running backs and tight ends, yada, yada, yada. And, I think the positive aspect of that is I think he can really come in and be a big picture guy, somebody that focuses solely on organization. What are we doing? How are we getting guys in?
A CEO type, right?
Correct. Yeah. It could be a very, very good CEO where he is going to farm out what the defense is doing and what the offense is doing. And he's not going to be as involved with it as, maybe Spurrier was, at least at first, and certainly not to the degree that Muschamp was on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that's really, depending on who you can get to come in as coordinators, especially if you can poach some guys from Oklahoma to come in here and do this, or his time up at Virginia Tech, I think that is a huge, huge positive. Because, when we were talking, I look at somebody like Deuce Staley or Chris Rump, who are, by all metrics would be outstanding coaches. I think the hidden element coming down from an NFL position to take the college job is the recruiting aspect. Yeah. And that is if you've never done that before, I think that could be a very, very challenging position to be put in.
Well, that's why a lot of guys go to the NFL, right? They don't want to recruit. They don't want to have to do that, right? That's a big part. I mean, if you can't recruit, you can't be a college football coach. Or if you can't employ a staff around you that recruits, if nothing else, you can't win in college football. You just can't do it.
Correct. And I think that is ultimately why I think, Beamer is the best choice for us. It's a university he's familiar with. He's been here. He knows how to recruit in our situation and what that needs to look like. And I think depending on who he could bring in as coordinators, I think that's the direction we should go in. Now, am I going to be like upset if we hire Billy Napier or Jamie Chadwell or Hugh Baby? No, not at all. I think the floor in the 2020 coaching search versus the 2015 coaching search is infinitely higher. Yeah. And so, I don't think we're going to be put in a bad spot either direction, but for whatever it's worth, if I was going to be making the decision, my decision would be Beamer, and it wouldn't be a difficult one.
What's up, guys? Hope you're enjoying the show. When you're running a small business, there are a lot of different tasks and challenges you face. You're wearing all the different hats. You're getting pulled many different directions, and you feel like you don't have enough time in your day. Literally anything that can make your life easier, you're open to it. Guys, if you're growing an e-commerce business, if that is your focus, you need a platform that's focused on growth. That's where my friends over at Klaviyo comes in, and today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Klaviyo. Klaviyo is the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform for online brands of all kinds and all sizes. Whether you're just getting started or you're running a well-known brand, it gives you everything you need to send memorable branded emails, text messages, and more, so you can build strong relationships that keep your customers coming back. Guys, with flexible automations, powerful insights, and super precise targeting, Klaviyo is a faster way to turn great ideas into great customer experiences. That's why it's trusted by more than 40,000 brands like Living Proof, Huckberry, and 8 sleep. Guys, in fact, an average Klaviyo customers see a 41% increase in overall revenue within 5 months. So Klaviyo scales with you so you never have to switch. They support everything from garage startups to iconic billion-dollar brands. Guys, if you want to learn more about how you can grow your brand with Klaviyo, visit klaviyo.com/grow. That is klaviyo.com/grow to get started with a free trial today. Again, that's klaviyo.com/grow, klaviyo.com/grow. Go check them out and tell them Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. Yeah, I mean, the floor being higher, that's kind of the point I've made the entire time. And listen, I've said this too. No matter who you hire, there are pros and cons with every guy. It's not like a Spurrier in 05 where, I mean, it's just like a slam. Like, it's a no-brainer, right? Like, there's going to be people that dislike the hire no matter who you hire. And, you know, I saw a stat. I want to point this out to you, Alex. I don't have the actual stats pulled up in front of me, but it was my good buddy Brad Crawford put up a stat about the lack of success and the challenges that first-time head coaches have had in the SEC since 2000, pointing out the records and just pointing out their shortcomings and why they haven't been successful and all that stuff. My thought process in that is this: who gives a damn? Because guess what? Statistically, South Carolina will never win the SEC. Statistically, South Carolina will never win a national title. So in the end of the day, who gives a damn about the stats? My thought process on it is this. And again, I said the vetting process, the interview process is so important. If you sit down with Shane Beamer and you feel like he's the guy, I don't give a damn what the stats say. Roll with it. Roll the dice. Like you said, I do believe the floor is infinitely higher this time around than it was in 15. And I mean, like I said, there's going to be pros and cons to everybody. Hey, Hugh Freeze, guess what? He might leave in 2 years and take a Tennessee or an Auburn job. He might put South Carolina in the same position at Ole Miss. Billy Napier's never been a head coach in the SEC. Again, there's a risk no matter who you hire. So if you truly feel like Shane Beamer's the guy, and again, you see the guys he's getting the vote of confidence from: Melvin Ingram, Steven Garcia, Patrick Fish, Pat DeMarco. Basically, probably everybody that was there when he was there, or definitely who recruited him, they're going to vouch for Shane Beamer. And I mean, you know, it's not like these are just average Joes out here. These are Gamecock legends that want him to get the job. Hey, what do you think Connor Shaw thinks? I wonder, right? Like, I wonder what he thinks.
Well, politically speaking, he's probably not in the right place to voice that.
No, but I'm just saying, like, he probably goes home and talks to the wife, and he's got probably a close circle where he's like, well, yeah, I'd like to see Shane get it. I mean, you know, I'm sure he has an opinion or something. So it'll be very interesting. And listen, I understand people's, you know, if people are hesitant about the Beamer hire. Like, I understand people's concerns. I'm not going to say somebody's stupid or that they're not valid in their concerns, because, hey, he's never been a coordinator, like a big time coordinator. He's never been a head coach. I know a lot of people point back to, and I'll ask you this question: what's your response when people say, well, why hasn't he been a head coach at this point yet? Like, what does that say about him that he still hasn't been one? He's been a coordinator, or he's been in the position he's been forever. Like, do you think it's just a situation where he's just been waiting for the right opportunity to jump, or because he's worked under some fantastic head coaches? That's for damn sure.
So that's it. Okay. So I think there's two sides to that question, because I saw something pop up where somebody said, you know, if you changed his last name, would he even be a candidate? And it's an incredibly stupid premise that I'm not going to give oxygen to. But the point being, like, that may actually have been what has hindered him to this point too. That, you know, somebody doesn't want to just give a job to Shane Beamer because of who his dad was.
Right.
Or is not going to give him that opportunity so there's not like a seed of nepotism floating around out there. I think on why he may have never gotten, and we don't know. I mean, he could have been offered, you know, all kinds of different lower level jobs, or not. I don't. Lower level is probably not the right word. Like Group of 5 jobs or like Division I AA jobs, and it wasn't something that he wanted to do. Right. And so it may just honestly be a situation where the right opportunity, he would certainly leave to be a head coach, but that opportunity of where he would want to do that hasn't come out. And it's like, well, you know, if I can be an assistant head coach at Oklahoma, which is a blue bug program that's, you know, going to the playoff every year and make $500,000 a year, that sounds pretty good. And so, you know, maybe that's just kind of where he's been, and you get something like this that pops open. at the right time. And he's like, you know what? That is a job I would really, really like to have. Let me tell you why I should have it.
You make a great point, by the way, Alex, is that Shane Beamer has never been a candidate on the short list, or he's never been a hot name candidate. Doesn't mean he's never been a candidate for a job before. Like, it could have happened behind the scenes where he got offered, or maybe they asked to interview and he's like, no, I'm fine where I'm at. So we're just assuming he's never gotten an opportunity to be a head coach. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Well, the retorts I've seen on this where he's never been a head coach, he's never been a coordinator. Like, okay, well, Will Muschamp has been a head coach and a coordinator. How'd that go?
What difference does it make? Who gives
Derek Dooley has been a head coach and a coordinator. Yeah. How did that go? Butch Jones has been a head coach and a coordinator. Like, there's no recipe of success to it. Like, the recipe of success to be like a good head coach in college football is you've got to be an otherworldly recruiter. You got to have really good connections to replace staff members, and you got to know how to organize everything. Shane knows how to do all those things.
For sure. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
100%.
Like, yeah, it's
like
going to
you can be an offensive genius.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's going to be a really interesting next 2 weeks.
Like a Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah, or somebody like that where you're gonna be sitting there calling plays, and you're at Oklahoma. That works because you've got a recruiting advantage and you've got all this money sitting behind you, and you're gonna go get the best of everything from a coordinator standpoint to a staff standpoint. That works fine. Where the wheels kind of come off a little bit is, if you're not in that situation where you have that huge backing, then what do you do? And that's where I think that those skill sets and those intangibles that he has play well for us.
Hey, man, all aboard the Shane train. All aboard the Shane train.
I mean, assuming Urban is unavailable.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, we're all aboard the Shane
We're
train.
still waiting to get word on if Urban has looked at that blank check we sent him in the mail or not.
I heard it was a Brinks truck. We just drove to his front door full of cash.
That's it for sure. Well, before I get you out here, Alex, we got a game this weekend. The Georgia Bulldogs come to town, and every time South Carolina plays Georgia, the line opened up. You're a 19-point underdog. But you think of last year, you were a 24.5-point underdog, and you somehow found a way to beat the Dogs on the road. Georgia's been a very interesting team, up and down, but besides talking X's and O's, because, again, we all know the challenge it presents, and South Carolina probably going to be starting a true freshman quarterback against the Dogs. So we know it's going to be a challenge, but I more so want to get from your side of things, again, from the player side. You went toe-to-toe with Georgia. You guys beat Georgia in 2007 at their place. We all know how crazy their fans are, and people say for the Carolina-Clemson game, because this is actually supposed to be rivalry week if the schedule was normal. But people say for that game, throw the records out the window, right? It doesn't matter what the records are. When these two teams meet, anything can happen. That is so true, I feel like, for South Carolina, Georgia. Like, there's so much familiarity between the rosters. You have, South Carolina's always had so many Georgia guys on the roster, and Georgia has their South Carolina guys, and you got guys that played against each other in high school or played with each other. Just talk about your experience in the South Carolina-Georgia rivalry. What do you remember most? Because, you obviously played under a head coach that hated the Georgia Bulldogs. He hated them with a fiery passion.
He did not care for them. No. At the end of the day, like, that was always it's the biggest SEC game we play every year. I mean, it's awesome to play Florida, Tennessee, those guys, but Georgia, just from a proximity standpoint, was always the best SEC East game, or from a rivalry standpoint, and just like, we really, really, really want to win this one. So, from an experience, I got a funny story on Georgia. So 2006, when we played them at home, we lost 18-0, which was fun. And Spurrier came in Monday. Whiteboard's completely clear. We're all sitting in the team meeting room, and he wrote on the board. He wrote family of four tickets, concessions, line item number there, and a couple other things underneath it, and totaled it up. And he finished. He turned around and he was like, "See this number? This is what you guys cost everybody that came to that game that watched you lose 18-0. And so, it's Georgia week, and it's a game you want to win. And from an experience standpoint, playing between the hedges is awesome. I mean, it's a raucous environment. When we played them at home in 2008, they were ranked number 1, and we ended up losing by a touchdown. That was an awesome environment. It's just it's a fun week, and it's a game you want to win. It's a game we can win. I mean, Georgia's been Jekyll and Hyde all year, although it seems as though the new quarterback they inserted is a little bit better. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
No, yeah, for sure. It's funny story too about 06. I was at that 18-0 game, and me and my grandfather went to that one. We scalped tickets. We actually paid $180. So just to
that statistic on the board.
Yeah, to put that statistic on the whiteboard. That was $180 and about $20 for Bojangles. So there you go.
Yep.
That's what
cost you $200.
That's what the 06 Gamecocks cost the Phillips family that night at Williams-Brice. But No, good stuff, man. Well, hey, man, Alex, always a pleasure, man. We'll definitely do it again next week. So, we'll talk soon. Hopefully, maybe after a big Gamecocks upset. You never know. Appreciate it, man.
Just progression, if nothing else.
That's it.
Let's just see some progression.
Excitement with number 4 behind center. You never know.
Kaboom.
For sure. He's Alex McGrath. I'm Chris Phillips. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you next time on the episode of the Spurs Up Show.